Good afternoon, everyone. We will call the City Commission meeting to order here at 2 p.m. and we will begin our meeting with a moment of silence. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, would you please call the roll?
I'll start with our newest commissioner, Commissioner Goey.
Present.
Commissioner Knight.
Present.
Commissioner Purdue.
Present.
Commissioner Robbins.
Present.
Commissioner Asasi.
Present.
President O'Connor.
Present. And could I get a motion to excuse the mayor, please?
So move.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Before we get to public comments, I will invite our interpreter to the microphone. We do offer interpretation services during our commission meetings.
Good afternoon. We will be providing live interpretation English to Spanish during this meeting and Spanish to English during public comments if needed. Buenas tardes. Estaremos proveyendo interpretación en vivo del inglés al español durante la reunión y del español al inglés durante los comentarios públicos si fuera necesario. Gracias.
Thank you very much. First item on the agenda today is public comments regarding agenda items. As you are aware with the agenda, we do have a variety of public hearings today, so if you are here to speak regarding one of the public hearing items, please reserve your comments for that period of time, as that is a dedicated time to have you address the commission regarding those items. And then we will allow for another public comment period again at the end of the meeting where you can speak about anything that's on your heart or mind. But to begin, if you would come to the microphone, if you would like to speak to any of the agenda items, please state the name and the city in which you live in and what agenda item you're interested in speaking about. Public comment is open. All right, we will close that public comment period and move to the approval of our minutes. Can I get a motion?
So move. Support.
Moved and supported. Questions, changes? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item will be our petitions and communications.
First one is a communication received from Deja Tillman, ACLU of Michigan Legal Fellow, regarding a response to a FOIA request.
As received and filed.
Communications received regarding the proposed zoning amendments.
Those are received and filed,
And then vicinity energy rate increase information only.
and that will be received and filed. Next, we'll move to reports of city officers.
Comptroller's warrant report for the period of March 6, 2024 through March 26, 2024 in the amount of $38,204,951.57.
That is received and filed.
And then the treasurer's report for the period of March 6, 2024 through March 26, 2024.
And that is received and filed.
And the city clerk submitted the mayor's appointment of Commissioner Bingoey to various standing committees.
And that is received and filed. Next on our agenda will be approval of our consent agenda. These are items that we discussed and voted on earlier today and had no objections as they were all unanimous votes. So can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Questions or comments? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda will be our ordinances to be adopted, and we'll turn to our clerk for the first.
The first one is the ordinance amending section 9.857.181 traffic of chapter 170 of the Code of the City of Grand Rapids entitled Municipal Civil Infractions.
Can I get a motion?
So moved. Support.
Moved and support. We'll turn to Commissioner Knight to give us a brief update on this one.
Yes, this is briefly proposed changes that we are making in the city regarding the amendments to Chapter 170 of the City Code entitled Municipal Civil Infractions.
Very good. Colleagues, any questions or comments on this item? All right. This is a roll call vote.
Commissioner Knight,
Yes.
Commissioner Asasi,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins,
Yes.
Commissioner Purdue,
Yes.
Commissioner Goey,
Yes.
President O'Connor.
Yes. Motion carries. Item 2.
Is ordinance amending Article 8, bicycles of Chapter 181, General Traffic Regulations of Title 10, Traffic of the Code of the City of Grand Rapids.
Can I get a motion?
So moved. Support.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Since the shared micromobility program was first piloted back in 2019, a primary focus has always been to ensure the safety of users and those around them. As we continually strive to make Grand Rapids a safe place for bicyclists, micromobility users, and pedestrians, it has been noted that some aspects of the city's ordinance related to bicycles needed to be updated to reflect increased ridership and changing trends in personal mobility. And then just as a reminder, this came as a recommendation from our Mobile GR Commission, which is a body I also sit on, back in December of 2023, and it was brought before the Committee of the Whole back in March. So essentially, this just updates some of our language to reflect more types of micromobility safety elements outside of just bicycling.
Very good. Colleagues, questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor? Oops, sorry, roll call vote.
Commissioner Isasi?
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
Commissioner Purdue?
Yes.
Commissioner Goey?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
President O'Connor.
Yes, motion carries.
Third ordinance is ordinance amending Section 1.246, Life Allowance of Article 2, Chapter 7, Title 1 of the Code of the City of Grand Rapids related to the police and fire retirement system.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Commissioner Purdue, you want to give us some background on this?
Absolutely. The changes to this section correct existing language regarding the ability of certain fire members to select a higher multiplier retroactive to, or as early as the member's 6-month employment anniversary. The current existing language limits the ability to select a retroactive date to members hired between January 10th, 2012 and August 13th, 2019. However, it has since been clarified that the tentative agreement was intended to include members hired after August 13, 2019 also. So pretty significant date there. So the revised language also requires that fire members hired after January 1st, 2024 make a multiplier selection no later than their 6-month employment anniversary per a recent MOU.
Very good. Colleagues, any questions about this one? All right, so roll call vote.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
Commissioner Purdue?
Yes.
Commissioner Goey?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Isasi?
Yes.
President O'Connor.
Yes, motion carries. Our next item on the agenda will require us to suspend the rules as we have a walk-on item. So could I get a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Support.
Those in favor?
Aye.
A motion. Those opposed? Motion carries. All right, this item is Commission resolution approving the settlement in the case of Leonard Gross versus the City of Grand Rapids. Could I get a motion to put this on the floor, please?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. We'll turn to Commissioner Yasasi to give us a quick rundown of this.
Thank you, Mr. President. So today, the litigation matter of Leonard Gross versus the City of Grand Rapids, which is a circuit court case, was presented to us in our executive session. The settlement of this matter and any other potential claims was recommended in the amount of $55,000, plus the cost of mediation to not to exceed $2,500.
Very good. Colleagues, any questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. That concludes our resolutions. We're going to move on to our public hearings. We have 8 scheduled public hearings. Without objection, I'm going to combine items 2 and 3 and items 4 and 5 into 2 separate public hearings for those 4 items as they are related projects. So we'll start with our first public hearing, which is a public hearing to consider the establishment of an obsolete property rehabilitation district pursuant to Public Act 146 of 2000 for MWS Ottawa LLC at 975 Ottawa Avenue. And we'll welcome Mr. Klooster to the dais.
Good afternoon. Happy to be here to talk about a few projects proposed in Grand Rapids this afternoon. The first is what you see on your screen here, the Silva. This is a project located at 975 Ottawa Avenue Northwest, and the owner is MWS Ottawa LLC. Typically, when we bring projects to you under the Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act, we're bringing you 2 items. One would be related to establishing a district, and the other would be related to an application for a tax exemption. That is the efficient way to do it and works well in most instances. This project, you are only seeing the request for the establishment of an obsolete property rehabilitation district at this time. The reason we're doing that is because establishing the district allows the applicant to do some additional work on the property, exploratory demolition, figure out some more details about the scope of the project, and still remain eligible for the exemption in the future. If the project proceeds, then we would get an application for that exemption, and we would be back in front of you with the details that you're used to seeing about the investment amounts and jobs, et cetera. But the project you may have heard about already is rehabilitation of this 45,000 square foot facility, all the floors of it, restaurant, event space, and recreation facility. So more details to be provided at a future date, but I did want to invite Mark Secchia and Jared Belka up to talk just briefly about the project and answer any questions that you may have. Establishment of a district provides no benefit and presents no risk for the city of Grand Rapids at this time.
Thank you, Jono. Welcome.
Hello, thank you.
Yeah. Happy to share anything you'd like to share.
Yeah, thank you. John O explained, this is a little different. Obviously, this building's been vacant for some time. I know many people have looked at it. Mark raised his hand to tackle it. Obviously, it's a very difficult one. If anybody's ever been inside, I know John O has. They can speak to it. I've been inside as well. Needs a lot of love. Mark's got a great vision for a project here, but that's what it's going to need, a lot of love, and he's willing to make that investment. An exciting project in the North Monroe. Obviously, there's been a lot of recent activity going on in this area. Mark and his team look to add to it. So happy to answer any questions at this point, but we do intend to be back before you with an application in the very near future. So appreciate your consideration too.
Very good. Colleagues, any questions? Commissioner Sassi?
Thank you. Thanks for this, and I'm glad we're here at the hearing. I'll just say Mark reached out really early on. I just want to highlight the engagement that I think you've done in the neighborhood with other business owners, giving tours. I know we've been in there, the mayor's been in there, a number of other people. So it's great to walk around and see the opportunity, and just thank you again for that engagement. I think that's certainly something I'm always looking for.
Well, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Knight?
I'll just echo what Commissioner Sassy said, and I've been through there multiple times. It's a scary place. So if you can tackle that, I'm happy to see things get rolling on this and what it'll actually bring to the second ward, some of that revitalization that we need. So I'm excited to see what the next steps are.
Appreciate it.
All right. Well, with no other comments, we can have a seat, and we can open up the floor to public comment for anyone who wishes to speak regarding this obsolete property district. All right. Hearing none, we will close that public hearing, and we will refer that back to be considered at a later date here. Next item on the agenda, we're going to combine 2 and 3. These are public hearings to consider the establishment of obsolete property rehabilitation district and an application for an obsolete property rehabilitation exemption certificate for 130 Packard LLC at 130 Packard Avenue Southeast. Oh, there's no motion. Sorry. We'll just turn it back to Mr. Klooster here.
I delayed a little bit too long there. So back to normal with 2 public hearings combined into one here, one related to the establishment of an obsolete property district and the other for a 10-year obsolete property exemption for this building, which is just north of Cherry Street, adjacent to the Uptown Corridor Improvement Authority development area there. So the building you see on your screen currently only has 1 story, and I don't think it has a floor. It's a 1,352 square foot single-story building, most recently used as a lock shop. The yellow building you see there is Cherry Market building, and it's been used by that operation in the past as well. Andy Staub is taking this project on, redeveloping the first floor for future retail space and adding that second floor, which would be a 2-bedroom apartment on top. So adding a little bit of incremental density here adjacent to in a historic district. The building is functionally obsolete as determined by the city assessor. Project is going to cost about $475,000 with $400,000 of hard construction costs. Mr. Staub is working towards 35% participation by women, minority, or micro-local subcontractors, and 2 full-time and 2 part-time jobs expected, although those will be created by a future retail tenant at this facility. Project was reviewed and approved by the Historic Preservation Commission in February. The East Hills Council of Neighbors has provided a letter of support for the project, and the Uptown Corridor Improvement Authority did provide some funding for the architecture work. So I will invite Mr. Staub up at this time to talk a little bit more about the second obsolete property on your agenda tonight.
Very good. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
My wife and I bought the property probably 6 months ago, and we bought it mostly because we love the area. We've lived in the area for a really long time. We just recently moved in the northeast side, and so we were kind of missing the East Town Cherry Hill vibe. So I bought the property, and John was partially right. It has some floor, but it doesn't have a roof, so it needs a lot. So we were kind of talking to the neighborhood and seeing what the needs were in the neighborhood, and it's housing and smaller retail. So that's kind of the plan we were trying to move forward with. We're pretty excited to get going with the project and hopefully find a local, smaller tenant that can use it as like a retail space or office space or flex space. I think there's a ton of good options for what could go in here pending zoning approval. And yeah, I mean, coffee shop, yoga studio, art space, all sorts of things. So yeah, in our goal of keeping our rents low, that's kind of why we looked into different incentives, and Oprah included. Hopefully that with those savings, we can just pass that on to our tenants and set them up for success.
Very good.
That's kind of our goal. Happy to answer questions if you have any.
Colleagues, questions, comments regarding this project? All right. Hearing none. At this time, we'll open up the floor to the public if anyone is here to speak in regards to this project.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no one, we will close that public hearing and refer that back to be considered at the future City Commission meeting. Item 4 and 5, this is a public hearing to consider the establishment of an obsolete property rehabilitation district pursuant to PA 146-2000 for Pure 662 LLC at 662 Leonard, as well as an obsolete property rehabilitation exemption certificate at the same property for the same LLC. Mr. Kloster.
Thank you. So same process here. This on the west side in the first ward. 662 Leonard, also a very obsolete building. Doesn't look anything like what you see on your screen currently.
No.
6,294 square foot building, single story, in pretty significant state of disrepair, also determined to be functionally obsolete by the city assessor. Project proposed here by Pure 662 LLC, associated with Pure Architects, is redevelopment for golf simulators, pickleball courts, pro shop, and a bar. And the estimated investment is nearly $2 million with about $1.6 million of construction costs. You see the aspirational goals there related to participation from women-owned, minority-owned, and micro-local subcontractors, over 20% of the overall project. We do have the application both for the establishment of the district and for an 11-year obsolete property rehabilitation exemption. This project would get started in the near future and be done this year as well. 1 full-time and 4 part-time jobs with average wages of $20 an hour. Planning Commission did approve alcohol sales and a parking waiver on February 22nd. West Grand Neighborhood Organization provided a letter of support for this project. The Brownfield Authority supported an environmental site assessment grant for this project, and the West Side Corridor Improvement Authority will be considering a facade improvement grant for this project as well. We do have Blaine Westmoreland with the development team here to come up and give you a few more details.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good afternoon. As John said, my name is Blaine Westerland. I'm representing the ownership group. I think just a little bit of background. I work at Pure Architects. Zach is the owner of Pure Architects. We just moved in down the street at 422 next to Speedway. In working there, we kind of saw an opportunity to dig in and on the west side in that corridor, and we found this building. Hard to call it a building. I think similar to the previous applicant. I think a few weeks ago it was snowing while I was inside the building through the roof. So it's definitely in a state of disrepair, and I think the application for the Oprah helps us, I think, kind of as an architecture firm, approach it in a sustainable fashion. Two, I think it provides the opportunity to bring accessibility to things like pickleball and golf into the city a bit more. So I think so those are some of the bigger things that this is helping us with. So.
Very good. Colleagues, questions, comments? Commissioner Robbins?
I'll just express my thanks. I know the residents will be excited to see the tree growing out of the roof gone as well. So we're we're excited to have you in the neighborhood in more ways than one, and look forward to coming to play some pickleball when it's open. So thanks.
And I could say I've had the pleasure of going through that building, but I don't think, to your point, it was 8 years ago and it wasn't great at that time. So I can only imagine how much worse it's gotten. So I'm appreciative of the fact you're taking on a project of this this magnitude. With that, we can open up the public hearing to anyone who wishes to speak. All right, seeing no one, we will close that public hearing and we will refer those back to be considered at a future date. Item 6 is going to be a public hearing to consider the approval of an expansion of the City of Grand Rapids Downtown Development Authority Area Number 1 and an amended development and tax increment financing plan for the Downtown Development Area Number 1. I will welcome Mr. Kelly from the DGRI.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you again. I'm going to give a quick overview of the recommendations in the development and TIF plan amendments ahead of the public hearing, and then happy to take any questions. So real quick, to start, this recommendation is coming to you from the Downtown Development Authority Board, who recommended this at their February meeting. What's included here and why we're doing this is we're trying to align these statutorily required documents with the work of the DDA and the priorities for downtown. The outcome of it would be the creation of 2 new tax capture districts, which you see up on the map here. On the left is what currently exists, and on the right is what's proposed. Important to point out that the entire area in these new tax capture areas is already within the DDA boundary. They just don't collect taxes, save for the areas south of Wealthy Street along the riverfront. In addition to the new tax districts, what's being proposed is a extension of the plan for 30 years. So that would take that out to 2054. And really why this is happening, and here maybe just back up here. So 3 new parcels and then the extension to 2054. Zooming in on those new tax capture district areas, you see here what the new District Q would include. This is along the riverfront there, just north of Wealthy. And then District R includes the post office as well as the Row Hotel. The reason this is coming forward is really to support the ongoing work along the riverfront and to support projects like the Fulton and Wealthy Trail development, the Oxford Trail connection, which is currently in planning, and then, of course, the amphitheater. Hopefully, one day, we would also be at a point to help support the post office renovation and redevelopment, although obviously no plans in place for that at the moment. Things that are not changing within the recommendations that I always want to point out, the gain sharing provisions, which were created back in 2016, which will allow for the DDA to share revenue back to the taxing units. Those remain in place, and you see the schedule for that here. In addition, special millages approved after 2016 would also not be captured. So just want to point out that those things do not change. This is the public hearing, obviously. This was noticed as required by the state to all property owners in downtown. And with your, or after today, would be hoping to get your consideration at a future meeting. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Colleagues, questions for Mr. Kelly? Commissioner Perdue.
Good afternoon. Curious if you heard back from any of those property owners after the kind of notice was given?
We have not.
Other questions? All right, with that, we will open up the public hearing to anyone in the public who wishes to speak regarding this expansion. All right. Seeing no one, we will close that public hearing and we will refer this back for a future consideration. Item 7 is a public hearing on programmatic agreements with the Michigan State Historic Preservation Office. And we will welcome Ms. Bohach to the stage.
To the stage, that's exciting.
Yeah. It's your time to shine.
Thank you. So this is required for us to be in compliance with the Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act that requires federal agencies to consider the effect of their undertakings on historic properties. We receive funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and so they are required to comply with that. And they, in turn, are gracious enough to delegate that responsibility back to local jurisdictions. We have 2 agreements with the State Historic Preservation Officer in order to facilitate compliance. There's 2 agreements, one for activities that actually are for lead hazard control, and the second is for those that do not have lead hazard control, are not programs with lead in them.
There's not a PowerPoint for this.
There's no PowerPoint for this, sorry.
All right.
Sorry, people were looking uneasy, so I should stop. My apologies. So anyhow, so we are just asking for any input in terms of any planned projects that could have effect on historic properties.
Very good. Colleagues, any questions for Ms. Bohaj? All right, we will open up the floor to anyone who would like to speak regarding the public hearing for the programmatic agreements. All right, seeing no one, we will close that public hearing. And we'll move on to our final public hearing of the day, which is a public hearing on the FY25 Neighborhood Investment Plan funding, totaling recommendations totaling $9,267,976. You're back.
I'm back, sorry. And here is the item with the PowerPoint presentation. And this is really just to provide you a quick overview and context. We provided you funding recommendations were presented on March 19th. And this is really to provide an opportunity for the public to comment on those recommendations for funding, that allocation process, as well as the resulting draft annual action plan that has to be submitted to HUD later at the end of this process. So just to provide some quick overview of context, our federal plan is the Regional Housing and Community Development Plan. It is our strategic planning tool that's required for a 5-year period that identifies community needs and priorities and helps guide our funding and allocation and investment of those resources from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. On an annual basis, we have to submit an annual action plan that more specifically identifies those projects, the dollar amounts, and a variety of information, demographic information, and serves as our application for the Community Development Block Grant, the Home Investment Partnerships Program, and the Emergency Solutions Grants. And that covers a period of July 1 through June 30th of each year. So this year, as Commissioner O'Connor identified, we are allocating nearly $9.2 million. So the first part of that is those entitlement funds that we just spoke about. And then also some remaining funds from the Home American Rescue Plan Act. We are including in this process U.S. Department of Treasury funds and Department of Justice funds, as well as some resources that are available to us through the opioid settlement. We do that through our local process called the Neighborhood Investment Plan, and that really is a framework that we use to solicit applications to receive funding under 8 outcome areas. That process is a 2-step process where we solicit for a notice of intent to apply, and then we invite applicants to submit full applications. We have a review process where community development staff work with a work group of city commissioners to prepare and to review all of those applications and prepare recommendations, which was presented again on March 19th. Those recommendations for projects align with those community needs that are identified in the consolidated plan, as well as the city's strategic plan, and we're working to maximize the limited resources. And I might also mention here that today you had conversation about proposed zoning amendments, and while this work doesn't specifically address those zoning strategies, it provides an opportunity for us to align with those priorities and help fund implementation of some of that in the future. And some of the things that you talked about today with eviction prevention, housing development itself, there's resources that are in these recommendations that would address those areas. Education and notification, this is just, again, an overview of how much outreach was provided in advance to the funding process itself, making sure that people, or I should say people, organizations were aware of the opportunities in providing technical assistance, and then also providing one-on-one assistance for the application process if necessary. And then we are at the public comment stage, and those recommendations were made publicly available on March 18th and then presented to you, and that launched our 30-day comment period, which is required by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And then we are inviting comment today here orally, and then also you have the ability to provide written comments through April 18th. All of those, any comments that we receive in writing are provided to the City Commission in advance to any final decisions that are made in terms of what is will actually be funded. And those final awards and the submission of this annual plan that serves as our application is scheduled for May 7th.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Bohach. Colleagues, questions for Ms. Bohach before we open up the public hearing? All right, hearing none, we will open up that public hearing to anyone who wishes to speak regarding the neighborhood investment plan.
How y'all doing? I'm D. Jones, and I just wanted to say, I see you guys are speaking about housing, and I would like for you guys to 3D print some homes. I don't know who's going to get a piece of this funding to try to attack the housing crisis, because we need 34,699 units. I know that's a lot of units. I know that's not enough funding to address all of the housing that we need for the city. But as somebody that gets some of this funding, I would like to speak to you guys or Housing Ken about actually developing some 3D affordable homes, some low-profit affordable homes. That's what we truly need, some truly equitable, affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Anyone else who wishes to speak? All right. Seeing no one, we will close that public hearing. And that concludes our public hearing portion of the agenda. We'll now move on to our public comment period. So this is the general public comment period where you have the ability to address the commission for up to 3 minutes. If you come to the podium, please state your name and the city in which you live in, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Please address your comments to the commission, and we will start again with Mr. Jones.
How you doing, everybody? I'm just getting my award off the bag. So I wanted to show everybody my International Visionaries Award that I won in Las Vegas this year for esports and gaming and all of the cool things that I do for the community. I really put in a lot of work. I put a lot of dedication and passion and energy into bringing esports here. And I also got a letter from the U.S. Congresswoman, which is crazy. If I can even find it. I don't know if I'll... Here it is right here. Got a letter from the U.S. Congresswoman. I wanted to show everybody this. I'm a very powerful individual. I understand the power that I have. But I'm African American. I'm actually creating change. And she recognized me for actually giving back to my community, giving back to the underserved people, the people in the hood. I brought one of my friends from the hood. He was tatted up, and we were at the headquarters for the Dems. And Joe Biden was opening up his office, and we got to speak to Mike Dungan. It was pretty cool to bring my friends from the hood to the party, because I'm not a Dem or a Republican. I'm an independent, but I just want people to be politically engaged, and I care about our voting. I care about our voting process, but I just care about our community. And people should not be voting for Donald Trump. I'm not going to be lying. Vote for Joe Biden. That's just how I feel. But I do not support genocide. I do not support war. I do not support anything for trying to destroy other communities or other countries. I believe the goals of the United Nations of us sticking together. I'm a very bold individual. I don't care who people go vote for, but that's just my opinion. I just want to see a peaceful country. I was there when President Trump was here. He actually drove right by me, and me and him locked eye to eye, and he sat there and did this to everybody. And I was just speaking to the news, and I was like, $100,000 esports finals. And he was at the same venue that I'm going to be doing the esports finals June 8th, so I know I'm going to be a powerful individual. I already got a letter from the congresswoman for the cool, beautiful things that I've been able to do here. And I look forward to continuously doing this powerful work and trying to work with you guys and being able to do powerful things for my community and giving back. And I want to thank those police officers around the community that see me and ask me to snap pics and let me know that their kids love video games and that they love the work that I do too, because I believe in good police officers. I don't like bad police officers. I don't like police officers that make the police department look bad, to be honest. I do like those good police officers, and I do support good police officers that actually do care about the community. I do care about those police officers. But I care about the community, and I know a lot of people don't like the police. But, you know, I got a cousin that got killed by the police, but I still believe in good police, and I still believe in good people. I believe in good politicians. I don't always believe in politics, but I believe in good people that work in politics. And I look forward to continuously doing this powerful work, and y'all have a beautiful one.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Congratulations.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Doug Meeks, 2nd Ward. I didn't plan on coming down here to speak today, but then I watched the committee in the whole, and then I thought I needed to come down and address a couple things that I thought were important to address. I think that that Kristen Turkelson provided you guys with some things that would help put guide rails in place regarding unintended consequences that you might have. But I wanted to first thank Mr. Goy for looking at the Housing Now numbers. Earlier you were looking into the numbers specifically, and I think that there are a lot of numbers that just do not add up. The fact that the city has lost 1% of population in the last 3 years, the fact that it's projected on a 1.2% interest or percent population increase to reach those numbers that they're claiming that we need for housing. Housing is a problem. It's not a crisis. I don't believe it is. And I think that the numbers state that as well. And people were talking about data point driven decisions. We need to look at those as well. I would also indicate that since those numbers don't add up, that it's necessary to take some time and pause and to look at this. I think, Ms. Perdue, you were right on when you said that this hasn't been communicated to the citizens appropriately. You're completely right. Like, it has not been. It was interesting to me that we were looking at parking, and the parking person that came up to discuss things in front of you today was like, hey, we're going to have all these meetings, and we're going to do this and that hasn't happened on these ordinances. And that's a shame that they haven't happened on these ordinances, because I think that's where the outrage is coming from many of the citizens. There was talk by Mr. Robbins earlier about the 10 years, and people have been discussing this 10 years. That really doesn't matter. And the reason that doesn't matter is because the things that we were discussing to do 10 years ago didn't pass. So why we're looking at data and data driven from 10 years ago, and why this is appropriate, it's not appropriate regarding it. But to get back to Ms. Perdue, I think there is a big obligation by the commission to look into how this might displace communities. And I think that there's a difference between what Mr. Robbins was talking about earlier regarding displacement of someone purchasing a building and then raising the rents and kicking them out, and a displacement of community foundations and threads of what that community is. And so I think that that's something that you guys need to look into further. I think that there have been some roadblocks, or there have been some guide rails given by Ms. Turkelson. I would ask that you really take those into consideration. And I just want to thank Melinda, Commissioner Yasasi, for all of your comments today. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Hello, friends. Mark from Grand Rapids. Last week, the one and only Donald Trump invaded Grand Rapids. And does what he always does. sit out, and lie. Lie to the people. So much so, he was sitting pictured with local law enforcement officials talking about he talked to the family of Ruby Garcia, who was killed, and gave his condolences to the family. Problem was, Ruby's sister came out and said, he didn't speak to us. I don't know where he got that from. That's because he always lies. He lies all the time. He lied before, he's lying now, and he's going to continue to lie. This is why the people had to get mobilized and vote. Because if not, he's going to get back in that office and wreak chaos and havoc like he did before. We cannot have liars in leadership. But if you do, stay at home, because that's who he wants. He can't win on the economy. He can't win on policy. He has to win on revenge. He has to win on rhetoric. He wants to win on everything but what's best for the country. And he is solely to blame on what's happening with the immigration. He is strong-arming the Republican side of Congress to not close out on the immigration deal because he wants to use it for his campaign. And we don't want him back in D.C. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Good afternoon.
Hi, I'm Lisa McManus. I'm here because I'm very concerned about evictions that are going on and evictions that are unintentional, but we're in a situation where we're trying to get more housing and attract more investors. At the same time, we're getting people that want to come in and really raise rents. And people are getting evicted as a result of it. Unfortunately, if you've ever walked alongside someone who has been evicted or who has an eviction notice in their hands, you know how difficult it is to get help for that. I spent about 15 years volunteering with African refugees who are primarily in the Oakdale neighborhood in Boston Square. Those people are very vulnerable to changes in their neighborhood. And I'm very concerned that the most obvious place to do the development that we need are in the close-in but maybe less invested neighborhoods like Oakdale, the West Side, our black and brown neighborhoods, basically. So I would ask you to really think through what kind of safety net do we have? We probably can't stop gentrification. It's going to happen. But we can do it in an equitable way that allows us to help people transition to another location if that's necessary. If we're going to put up multi-unit apartment buildings, something else is going to have to come down. And those are not going to be, the $1 million houses. They're going to be houses that are less expensive. And so I would ask that you really look into the issue of displacement. I believe there's going to be some serious problems, especially when we're sitting in a market that doesn't have enough housing. The people who are struggling, the single moms at Oakdale, where are they going to go? So I ask for some help. Maybe we can't pay their rent for them, but maybe we can help them move into another location in order to make way for the people who can afford to pay for that housing. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else who would like to be heard?
My name is Todd Tyson. I support change and progress in general in life, and I agree that zoning needs to be updated, but I also believe in honest conversation. And I'm concerned that the information you've been receiving has not been accurate on several issues. For example, this morning, Mr. Kilpatrick cited Zillow or Redfin to claim that the lowest single-family home price in Grand Rapids for sale was about $220,000, and stated that makes housing as an investment not practical. The truth is that in the last year, there were 185 property sales of improved parcels in Grand Rapids for under $100,000. That averages to more than 3 per week, or about 5% of the residential improved property sales in Grand Rapids. I found this simply by looking at the BSNA website. Homes in this price point are typically sold by wholesale brokers and don't show up in Zillow or Redfin. And I would think that Mr. Kilpatrick would know that, but maybe just chose not to tell you. The neighborhoods where these homes exist back up my report about low-income and disenfranchised residents being most at risk, and obviously they are, because you're not even being given that information to consider yourself. Other cities have incorporated fair housing guardrails for equity and upzoning. Excuse me. I think it's disingenuous for the planning department to focus only on the positive effects of upzoning. Chicago initially chose not to include equity in its transit-oriented development upzoning that was passed in 2013, but by 2015, studies soon revealed that their TOD had displaced Black and Hispanic populations, according to Pace University. Chicago has since updated its upzoning ordinance multiple times to address this issue. So why isn't Grand Rapids studying those improvements, and why haven't you been told about them? I don't understand why presentations by the city seem to purposefully withhold these points of information. I'm not sure why you're okay letting that happen. You could demand answers from the city or seek them elsewhere yourself before you vote on zoning changes. Has the Office of Equity or Engagement in the City of Grand Rapids or the Community Relations Commission been asked for a report on how the proposed zoning changes will impact various groups? If not, why? I was glad to hear some commissioners raise concerns of equity this morning. I don't understand why it hasn't been integrated into this discussion from the very beginning. How much longer do we have to wait? We've been told this has been a conversation since 2015. Apparently, equity has not been part of it. Both Michigan's 5-year housing plan and the city's strategic plan demand equity be a guiding principle for housing. The votes you're being asked to consider are likely going to be one of the biggest changes to city zoning in a generation. And as of today, you're telling residents that equity isn't part of the consideration for zoning. Based on what I've been hearing this morning, I'm confident that you've been given half-truths and misinformation on these issues to lead you to a predetermined outcome. Don't be fooled that upzoning without guardrails won't have negative consequences or that you can't do anything about it. Please don't wait until you're told that it's your turn to speak. If you believe equity should be part of this conversation, please stand up today and demand it. Your community will support you and your voters will too. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else who would like to be heard?
Good afternoon. I'm Colleen Hammond from Grand Rapids. I know the city planning and the city commissioners have received numerous documents from many neighbors regarding the proposed zoning law changes. I hope and trust that you are taking the time to truly review all the suggestions. These proposed zoning law changes represent a very broad brushstroke where it seems to be one size fits all. And in fact, one size fits few. I'm concerned about the planning that has gone into the implementation of these massive changes. My questions for you: what is your implementation plan, the strategy? How do you intend to evaluate success of these changes? Is it by the number of units built, the number of homes that have been divided to provide more units, the number of persons per unit? How often do you plan to report back to us, your constituents? What criteria will you use as success, to retool, or failure? Where in this plan do you calculate the need for the city staffing, financial resources, public safety officers, firefighters, public utilities like drinkable water, electricity, trash pickup, street maintenance, etc.? How does the implementation plan affect the master plan that has not yet been completed? What do you see as unintended consequences? The list goes on, but you can understand our concerns and challenges. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
My name's Patrick Tischler. I live in the 3rd Ward. By my assessment, this body failed many of its constituents this morning. I was really disappointed by the lack of attention and discussion on the guardrails and protections related to zoning amendments that many of us have been asking for since January. We have been told that reasonable adjustments were on the table and would be welcome, and that conversation didn't happen this morning. So I'm just going to go through as many things as I can before I run out of time. For accessory dwelling units, I believe that they should be allowed by right only for owner occupants. I think this is a good compromise. It would cut the red tape and it would protect neighborhoods. I believe ADU should only be allowed with single-family properties and not duplexes. An ADU with a duplex would lead to a non-conforming lot split by right with a deed restriction that requires common ownership, and future buyers of a duplex with an ADU would have to obtain a commercial loan. And what's worse is once it's turned into basically a miniature multifamily complex, that home is no longer part of the single-family housing market. Moving on, for group housing, I think it's critical to make a distinction between emergency and transitional housing. A lot of emergency housing is a situation where the residents come, they sleep at night, they get up, and they leave during the day. I don't think that's good for an LDR neighborhood. Transitional housing, sure, allow that in a LDR neighborhood, but take another look. I think that some emergency housing belongs only in an MDR neighborhood. Now, if it's a transitional housing for people who are seeking permanent housing, that's a different story. Also, for infill housing and the whole discussion about whether or not corporate investment in housing is a real thing or a threat that's facing Grand Rapids, I think the example this morning given with the $6,000 needed in rent if somebody were to invest in a single-family home for profit is ridiculous. It's disingenuous. The national trend shows just in Q4 of 2023, investors bought 26% of all low-priced homes to turn around and rent out. Don't think that Grand Rapids is going to be immune from that. It's happening all across the country, and it's happening here. And I just have an example for Minnesota. In the wake of Minneapolis upzoning, now the state government is legislating to limit corporate ownership of single-family homes to less than 10 and to prevent them completely from buying a single-family home, turning around and renting it out. And that's because it's a real problem. It's a threat to home ownership, and it's a threat to affordability. And I see I'm out of time. I could go on. There's so much more. But I look forward to talking with two of you on Thursday. Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yep. Welcome.
My name's Karen Crummell. I live in Grand Rapids. I've lived here for 32 years. I'm one of the lucky few who can get a little time away from work to come and talk to you this afternoon. On my way here, it struck me just how similar this is to my work. I'm a home care nurse, and I take care of geriatric people in their houses. I go in to talk to them about their health. Half of them refuse to wear their hearing aids. The other half of them can't change the batteries. So I'm trying to tell them something about their health, and they're telling me about what happened on the football game last night, or what they had for breakfast, or their kids, or whatever else. There's no listening going on, and that's the frustrating thing here. I'm not sure what's more upsetting to me, the zoning changes which you're proposing, which are going to negatively impact my quality of life and my major investment in my home over 32 years, or the fact that you're not listening. I didn't hear about this until early March. I don't see stuff from my neighborhood association. I don't see stuff from the city. Normally, I get a card in the mail if there's going to be a zoning change. This stands to hugely impact property owners. Anyone who owns a single-family home near downtown Grand Rapids, and yet people don't know about it. And you're not listening, and you're forging ahead. That's a really big problem as far as I'm concerned. In the political landscape today, you only have to look as far as Ottawa County to see that people get fed up with government, and they get fed up with people not listening and making changes that don't impact them well. And I feel like that's what you're doing right here, right now. Your legacy, if you make these changes and they don't turn out well, is not just that the changes turned out badly, but that you didn't listen. And you can change that part easily by giving it time and giving people a chance to have input. Thank you for listening, at least for a second.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to be heard? Welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm Ronald Seif, 1237 Underwood, 3rd Ward. I am the elected member of the Urban Initiative. It's a new program by the Field Farm Service Agency, and I represent the 3rd Ward and East Grand Rapids. You might know Lance Cry represents from the New City neighborhoods, and Liz Visser of the Blandford Nature Center is the chairperson of our 5-member committee. We have 1 member from Muskegon County and 1 from Ottawa County, and then 3 in Grand Rapids. This Grand Rapids is one of 17 urban areas in the U.S. which for this pilot program. So that's quite exciting that we were asked to do that. So urban agriculture includes very many aspects, such as high tunnels, which also can be known as hoop housing, community gardens, hydroponics, aeroponics, aquaponics, and vertical production. The Department of Agriculture has the bottom-up philosophy of government. We start with the local level of the members and go to the state in Lansing, and then to Washington. There are loans and grants available for new farmers. That's the whole push of this pilot program. And there will be a national convention of all urban producers in August 4 to August 6 at the Huntington Center in Detroit, and the public are invited to that. With the COVID, we all knew what happened with the food transportation issues. The food was not able to be supplied in the grocery stores, and so that's why this initiative was started, to have local producers of food. The community gardens, there's much vacant land that the community gardens could be developed with these grants. I think that's all I have. I have some literature here to give if you would like to see it. And once again, I'm glad to be on this committee. So thank you very much for your time. And if you have any questions, you can go to the office, Farm Service Agency, on Eagle Park Drive, where their offices are. Mr. Joshua Schultz is the coordinator for this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that'd like to be heard? All right, seeing none, we will close that public comment period. And we'll now turn to commissioner comments. We'll start down here with our newest colleague. Put him on the spot here today. Mr. Go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner. I was reflecting on this historic day for me, for my family, and it struck me that it was exactly 64 years and 4 months ago, on January 9, 1960, that the Grand Rapids Press ran a front-page article that I have here of a Chinese family arriving in Grand Rapids, Michigan. In that picture was this 11-year-old kid that is now sitting in a city commission seat for the city of Grand Rapids. And many comments have been made about the situation in our country, the political situation in our country. But this historic moment for me is one that also affirms the greatness of this country, that an immigrant like myself can come here and be a participant in a process in which residents of this great city can express their opinions and can do so without fear of any kind of retribution, and that we have on this dais individuals who are willing to make the necessary sacrifices so that we can have a city government that runs well, recognizing that we don't always agree with one another. But again, this is a process that my family fled from a country that did not allow that. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm so grateful for the honor and the trust that all of you have placed in me by appointing me to this position. And I look forward to continuing to serve the residents of the Third Ward. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Goy. Commissioner Knight?
I think I just want to echo some sentiments from earlier as we went through the proposed zoning changes and how it would impact our community. And I'm thankful for the Kristen Turkelson and her team who worked diligently to answer some of the questions that our community members brought forth. There were a lot of questions at the last city commission hearing that we had on the commission night out. There are a number of things that we as a body had questions about individually as well as a whole that we brought forward to the Planning Commission for them to answer, to take into account when they made the decisions that they are doing in the changes that are being made or that we are talking about currently. And I've had to step back myself because I do that in most things and just look at all of the pros and cons as much as I can as a whole and see, where we may be missing some things. One thing that I realize is that nobody's ever going to get it right. I realize that real quick in everything that we do. But I do believe as we continue to grow as a community, as I have children in this community, I have grandchildren in this community, I have great-grandchildren in this community, I have friends, neighbors, family that all live in a number of different spaces and have different lived experiences within this community, that we are trying to answer a situation that has been going on in our community for more than 10 years. I'm just going to have to say it's been going on for a long time. It just continues to escalate as we move forward, as our communities change, as our world changes, as the years change. There's always a challenge that is set before us on how we can impact the lives of our community in the best possible way. And these are things that, I've had conversations with people about and have been talking about when I wasn't in this space, when I was working at nonprofits out in the community that sought to help relieve people of some of the issues that they were facing with evictions and unlawful evictions, and knowing their rights as a tenant and knowing the things that they could do to protect themselves, and also working with individuals who weren't making enough income to be able to pay their bills, to take care of their family, to do the things that they want to do to make them feel like they have some sense of belonging. But what I do think is that we have been putting forth a very good effort, and I want to thank the work that has been done, because it's not easy work, and you can try to answer one solution and think that you've got it all right, and there's something over here that still gets missed. And we're never going to ever be able to make everything work perfectly until we get to heaven, if that's where we're going. That's what I'm looking forward to, right? I don't have wings. I don't have a halo. I don't have any of that stuff yet. So I know while I'm here on this earth, that our job is to take the totality of the circumstances and the things that are going on in this community and try to make the best for everyone involved. Try. And that's all that any of us can do. Right? And so I think as we continue to move forward and think about how we can impact the lives of people who are disproportionately affected by the things that happen in our world, because it's trickle down, y'all. This is not just happening here in our city. This is across the country. We're all dealing with some of the same issues in every city across this country and trying to figure out the best way to do it. So we go talk to our neighbors and we talk to other leaders and we try to figure out, how did you address this? How did you approach this? What are your thoughts on this, to try to make sure that we are doing the best possible work we can? Does it seem like it's too much too soon? It may to some, it may not to others. Because a lot of those people that we're talking about aren't in this room. I haven't seen them at the podium. I haven't seen them talking. I haven't seen them at meetings. I haven't seen them at gatherings. But we're making the decisions. So my hope is at the end of the day that the decisions that we make, the choices that we make, one, we have the ability to step back and say, oops, that didn't work, let's try this. But two, that we are at the end of the day, really taking into account the thoughts and feelings and lives of the other people that these changes will impact. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Perdue?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for today. We got a total of 7 lively meetings today. I appreciated our conversation. I think it was probably the most lively we've had in a while regarding supply and affordability, kind of around the zoning changes. There are some FAQs that have been put together that were released earlier today, and I believe there will be a supplemental document being released to capture some of our additional questions from this morning. So excited to kind of continue that conversation and continue to talk with neighbors. A few items that I want to call out because they're really important to a lot of the other work being done, particularly around economic development and community investment. And one is this morning we approved some dollars to go to invest in infrastructure around water for the Town and Country Business District. Probably one of our definitely our southernmost business district, but one that is extremely diverse and representative culturally and ethnically and internationally, really. So make some, I think, awesome investments there, and approve some pre-construction services for the Kendall Fire Station, which will go in the 3rd Ward. So was excited to see those. We appointed folks to fill some vacancies on our community improvement authorities, which support our business districts. So, and had a joint meeting with 61st District Court around some needs around public safety in our community. So it was a busy day, productive day. The city staff have been doing a great job of sending out Commissioners Connected. I think that's the name of the newsletter. With that, you can find some other highlights. But just want to express my appreciation for today's conversation and highlight some of those wins that we had today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Robbins?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. In regards to our conversations and briefing around proposed zoning changes today, I just wanted to add my thanks to the city staff. I know they were working down to the wire to meet all of our requests and needs, and I've appreciated their attentiveness to addressing my concerns and also the questions of my colleagues and those in the community as gathered from our various meetings. I think when it comes to the issue of communication, I think, that's something that I've been harping on ever since I've sat in this chair. So I think there is always room for improvement. But when it comes to any issue, I think the more you communicate with the community, especially in terms of this issue, I would anticipate we'd get much of the same. We'd get more people who think we're never doing enough, and we get more people who would think we're doing too much. And so at the end of the day, I resolve to doing my best to make wise decisions, again, based on the data that's being presented to us and based on the experts who we entrust and appoint to help us and advise us on making those decisions. So that's still where my mind is at with this particular issue. But again, appreciate everyone's hard work, and I look forward to hearing more. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Sassi?
Thank you. I don't know. Yeah, this was a day full of a lot of different things. Again, I'll share my appreciation for the work that was done on our conversation about the text amendment changes. Thanks for people to coming out to share their thoughts. I think we had a good turnout at the public hearing in the first ward, as well as, I think, meeting with people and hearing a number of questions that they have. I'll echo what Commissioner Perdue said and take a look at that full frequently asked questions. Thank you, Kristen, already responding to people who might not have seen it, but heard that we referenced it. And thank you, colleagues, for the discussion. I wanted to shift gears a little bit and say, and I don't see, I think he left the room, but 2 weeks ago, we were able to host our annual SAFE Task Force meeting with individuals who are engaged with working to reduce gun violence in our city. And I see DC Trigg is out there, and Commissioner Knight was able to join. And it was a good meeting in the Baxter neighborhood of individuals who are primarily working with young people. And when this was started back in 2013, 2014, we were talking about children ages 15 to 24. And really the stories that we hear, that we see, and I see the chief in here, and our Kent County prosecutor was there as well. We're talking about 11 and 10-year-olds. And so we know that when it gets warmer out, we start to see people coming out of their homes, hanging out, enjoying the warm weather, but that also creates an environment where probably some of us in either the law enforcement area or in City Commission start to wonder sort of where things are at, what are the activities for young people to be engaged with. And so there was good discussion. There was also, out of this body, there has been good connections with, and I know our city attorney is on the board, for Pilgrim Rest group called Grace, working with young people to not just tell them, like, don't do these things, but show them what is the possibility and opportunity in their life and the choices that they can make, and that one bad choice doesn't have to dictate sort of what are the future outcomes. And so for me, this work has been really important as a resident member of SAFE back in 2014, being the chair now, but also somebody who has been impacted by gun violence, both individuals in my family who have engaged in gun violence and those that have been the victims of gun violence. And so just as I'm looking out, I haven't been outside yet since 8 o'clock, but I'm guessing it's warm. That's at least what the sun, or maybe the sun is deceiving. It's just a reminder to the providers, how can we connect? And we talked about putting together not only just what are we doing, but what is the calendar events, because we know there's great things in the day or the afternoon, but what about those things in the evening? And just again, appreciate you, DC Trigg, for being there and sharing some insights. We ate some good food, and just I think we're able to connect with those that are working really closely with young people and making sure, one, that they are safe, hopefully safe from gun violence, and also just kind of removing some of that taboo around, I know got some holders up here of licenses and say, hey, if you want to learn more about this, Commissioner. And I would say, I think that's part of this change, because I was always told, like, guns are horrible, stay away from them. And I think you get a little fear, and then people have some interest, like they want to test it out. And so I just want to say thank you to Asante Kane, Mr. Kane, who is one of the organizers of that, Commissioner Knight and DC, and all the other individuals who are able to come out and talk about the importance of keeping young people safe and doing it in a variety of ways. And so just a reminder that we're going into these warm months, and to please keep that top of mind in our city. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. City Clerk?
The Secretary of State's office has been holding regional meetings bringing public safety and clerks together into the room to talk about election safety in the precincts and what's going on around the country. The FBI has been involved. Some crime in infrastructure stuff that we would talk about well. So yesterday we had one of the regional meetings over at GVSU in Allendale, and we participated and then DC Trigg was there, Fire DC Johnson was there, Allison Froley, Doug Starr from our IT, Steve Guitar from our communications department, and myself. And so we did some tabletop exercises on elections and election security. And I sent an email to that group this morning and their supervisors saying thank you for attending, but also we're so far ahead of the curve in our collaborative spirit in Grand Rapids around safety and security in different environments. We've tabletopped quite a few of the situations that we discussed yesterday. There were some other clerks that were didn't feel as confident in their public safety as I do in ours. And so we're going to continue that conversation, but it's great that the Secretary of State is bringing those groups together to, and they gave out a challenge coin because it was two sides of a coin, clerks on one side and public safety on another. So as we get closer to November 5, 2024, of making sure that we're prepared for that, but also we want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to vote in a fair, safe, and secure manner. So those conversations are happening now. We're not waiting till November 4 to put together a plan.
Thank you, sir. Madam Attorney? Nothing. City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Commissioners, for your work and deliberation throughout the day. We've talked about a lot. I want to echo my appreciation to the staff for the work they did during the spring break and over the weekend and even today, getting us ready for a very important conversation, one that we've been having for years, but we will always have this conversation because Grand Rapids is not a city It has a lot of green space where we can just take farmland and build new housing developments. So we're always going to have hard conversations on how we upzone in various parts of our community to make room for the future of people if we want to have a growing city. Otherwise, the mayor and I were a participant in a national forum with other policy leaders who were talking about doing some of the various things that we're doing because they want to attract residents and retain jobs and make sure that our city is livable and thinking about how they make space for the future. And if we don't do it here, there will be other cities that will do it and will allure some of the businesses and people who want the kind of quality of life that has affordable housing, accessible housing, and build them in their other communities. And so I know this is tough because somebody has to want to do it in their neighborhood and some may not want to do it. And this is the job of the elected body that you ask the staff and the planning commission to embark on this conversation months ago. And so here we are at a critical point. Now, I will say that it has not been, in my opinion, Grand Rapids has been really holistically looking at housing affordability and accessibility, and we still have a lot of other things to do. But if you look at where we've tried to upzone before in converting ground floor retail into housing in Central Business District, or expanding the height allowance in terms of the both in transit-oriented developments as well as in the near downtown perimeter to create more density, and what we have seen from other cities that have tried to address this equitably, if you only upzone in one portion of the city, it may have a short-term duration, but it may not. It may just only create scarcity. And so what I will follow up with, as I heard a very good question about the CRC and the Equity Office, and I believe they did have a conversation around some of the proposed text amendments on their agenda, both the Equity Office scheduling it and the CRC discussing it. And so we'll add additional information on the outcome of that. But I am looking forward to the other parts of discussions, whereas we've talked about not only affecting the housing supply, but I think there's discussions around living wage and minimum wage, and there's discussions that we need to have around mobility and how do we get people to places of employment. And we talk about that a lot with our transit-oriented development, with the rideshare program that we're having. And so it is bigger than just zoning, but we have to start the conversation somewhere. So I appreciate the tough but bold conversation and the perspectives that all the commissioners offered today.
Thank you, sir. And I just thank you again for everyone coming out today. I appreciate your comments and making time in your day. Thank you to staff for all the hard work to make today happen, and I appreciate the opportunity to fill in for the mayor today and run these meetings. And we will see you in 2 weeks. Meeting adjourned.